I am Mother Earth. Plants, animals, birds, all are part of me. All of them depend on me. In a transient world, I'm the only permanent thing. The world is founded on my set of rules. I'm constantly on the move. That is the reason the inanimate appears animate, the animate full of life. My ceaseless effort makes the world complete. From time immemorial, I have nurtured plants of all kinds in my lap. I take care of the trees growing in dense forests. But what is man doing today? To feed himself, he has restored to so called improved seeds, chemical fertilizers, pesticides, and modern agriculture implements. He doesn't realize their effects. The result is degradation of environment and loss of fertility of the soil. Unknowingly, man is hurtling towards doomsday. The sigh pains me, more so when I see farmers committing suicide.
वर्तमान जो आधुनिक प्रणाली चाष पद्धति
The modern system of agriculture that we have adopted requires hybrid seeds, modern equipments, more irrigation, chemical fertilizers and pesticides. But the returns for the farmer are not commensurate with his investment. To bear all his expense, he has to take loans from various sources. Sometimes unable to repay the loan, he is even committing suicide. Reports of farmers' suicide are appearing in the press almost daily. Before the Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh went to Vidarbha, one farmer committed suicide every 12 hours. Now, one farmer commits suicide every 8 hours in Vidarbha. I am a farmer. My long experience and experiments in agriculture tells me that the seeds and fertilizers that developed nations have unleashed on us will make our land barren and will be a serious danger for our future generations. Think about it. In 1950, our annual food grain production was 50.8 million tons. By 1996-97, it went up to 198 million tons. The consumption of chemical fertilizers in the country then was about 70,000 tons. By 1996-97, it went up to 13.9 million tons. That is 198 times the figure in 1950-51. In the same period, our grain production had increased barely 4 times. In other words, we have had to use 50 times more fertilizers to register just an one-fold rise in production. Can we call this modern agriculture?
Chemical pesticides and synthetic fertilizers व्यवहार करिबा द्वारा
Our natural system was seriously disturbed by the use of chemical fertilizers and synthetic pesticides. They kill the beneficial insects and upset the whole ecosystem. Earlier, apart from paddy, the paddy field was also home to frogs, small fish, butterflies and so on. The paddy field thus was a source of nutrient for landless agricultural laborers.
धान बिलटा गोटे सोर्स थिला जोटा लैंडलेस एग्रीकल्चरल लेबर मान को पाई सेटा गोटे सोर्स ऑफ न्यूट्रिएंट्स थिला.
The microorganisms in the soil were wiped out by the use of chemical fertilizers and pesticides. Fish, crabs, frogs too were wiped out. Snakes died after eating them. White kites died after eating these snakes. Now it is the turn of man.
After independence, multinational companies thrust modern agriculture on us. harping on the view to increase food grain production in the country in view of the burgeoning population. They advise us to use chemically improved seeds, chemical fertilizers, pesticides, improved agriculture implements, and more water. But what has been the result of all this?
Food production has now increased, but the poor have nothing to eat. That is the greatest paradox. The Green Revolution was born out of the need to increase food production. Food production has increased manifold. Today there is so much of grains in the FCI godowns that even if one were to distribute it equally among the entire population of the country, there will still be plenty left.
On one hand, government godowns are bursting with grains and there's no storage place available to keep more. On the other, people are dying of starvation, selling their children, migrating in search of work, sending their children to work, stealing or committing other crimes, and even selling their body. Collection of seeds is the first step in agricultural cycle. For centuries, our farmers used traditional varieties of seeds that were entirely compatible with the climate of our country. The farmers collected the seed from his own production. But hybrid seeds are now everywhere. Our traditional varieties of seeds are now a distant dream. The farmer who once didn't have to spend anything for his seed is now having to fork out a sizable amount every year to buy the expensive high-yield variety of seed. How did these high-yield varieties come to be used? After independence, multinational companies through the government distributed these seeds to the farmers free of cost. In the name of agriculture revolution, farmers initially used these seeds reluctantly, but soon they started collecting these seeds free of cost from the government. Gradually, the rules of the game changed, and the farmers had to buy these seeds at high rates. We have to fight against this situation with courage and conviction. Let us discuss how we can retrieve our traditional seed and become self-sufficient again.
Collection of improved seed. To collect an improved variety of traditional seed, we need some salt, a potato, and some water. Let us drop the potato in the water. It will submerge. Let us now put some salt in the water and stir it well. If we drop the potato in the water now, it will float. We can collect good variety of seed using this solution. Let us put some paddy in plain water. The husk will float. Let us separate it from the rest of the paddy. Now collect the submerged paddy and put it in a saltwater solution. Some husk will float again. After removing the husk, we can sow the rest of the seeds directly or by way of transplantation. We have now collected poison-free paddy from the saltwater solution. Let us see how we can store it for long periods and still use it as seed. To store seeds for a year, we need some cow dung, a cane bowl, termite mound soil, ash, some straw, and some soil. Let us first keep the paddy in the cane bowl and then paste it with soil before keeping it in the open for drying. Next, we have to take an equal measure of cow dung, termite mound soil, and ash and mix it well with water. Let us now mix the paddy with the paste thus prepared, making sure that every grain of paddy is covered with the paste. After drying this paddy, we have to put it in the cane bowl. Cover it first with straw and then a layer of sticky mud. To protect it from disease and pests, the paddy container has to be kept hanging. We can also store fruit and vegetable seeds this way for a year and more. cleaning of seed through the cow product mixture method. This method requires 100 grams of curd, 100 grams of milk, 25 grams of ghee, a kilogram of cow dung, and 200 grams of cattle urine. After mixing all this stuff for about half an hour, let us mix it with seed meant for 10 decimal of land and then dry it in shade. We can protect the seed against all kinds of diseases and pests by applying it in our rice field. It also guards the seed against rodents and birds.
Let us now discuss about the chemical fertilizers used for the hybrid seeds. For better cropping, more and more chemical fertilizers is being used.
The farmers who use chemical fertilizers tell us that if they have to use 10 kilograms of fertilizers to produce 5 to 7 bags of paddy this year, they need much more fertilizers the next year to produce the same amount of paddy. To increase grain production one-fold, we need to use 10 times more fertilizer. As a result, the subsidy on fertilizers is constantly on the rise. Our farmers are not in a position where they can buy fertilizers at the rate the companies are selling to the government. That is why the government has to subsidize fertilizers. This alone accounted for as much as Rs 17,000 crores in last year's budget.
It is easy to imagine the effect that chemical fertilizers, which do not spare even cement walls and floors, have on the soil. The people say that the soil has become hard and needs more fertilizers. Thus, the amount of fertilizers needed goes up every year. It doesn't take much effort to solve the problem. Let us discuss how we can sort it out at home through the use of various methods.
Green manure. We can grow green plants like sesbania and later crush it into the soil. Another variety of green manure is azolla. We can grow it in a trough and apply it in the field later. Even wild grass, when mixed in soil, increases the fertility substantially. Don't you think that the grass you are mixing in the soil will damage it? No, it won't. What are these? These are green manure. It makes the soil stronger. Another variety of green manure is BGA, blue-green algae. Let us make a small vat using bricks in such a manner that 6 inches of water can be stored in it. After filling water in it, let us put the termite mound soil and silt soil and mix it well. The next step is to put some mother culture of BGA available in various agricultural research institutions in the water. Finally, some cow dung water has to be applied in the trough. After some days, the concoction will dry up and split into pieces. When applied in the agriculture fields, it increases the fertility of the soil. It leads to an increase in the population of beneficial microorganisms in the soil and makes it soft. Liquid manure magic tonic. To prepare 4 kilograms of this fertilizer, we need 2 kilograms of cow dung, 2 liters of cow urine, 100 grams of molasses, curd or oil cake. These items have to be put in a pitcher and stirred well. After they are mixed properly, the mouth of the pitcher has to be sealed with polythene and the date is written on the pitcher. After 15 days, we can take the contents of the pitcher out and apply it in the field after mixing it with water in the ratio of 1:4 during summer and 1:3 during monsoon. 4 kilograms of this fertilizer can take care of 100 plants. The plants will have healthy growth and production will rise. Have you prepared the fertilizer you are using yourself? Yes, entirely. Why don't you use the fertilizers readily available in the market? Let us not talk about it. It makes the soil rock hard and infertile. Vermiculture. Earthworms play an important role in enhancing the fertility of soil. Therefore, it is important to grow it. The ingredients needed to cultivate earthworm are some broken brick pieces, sand, loam soil, earthworm feed, and some basin. Except stone, iron, and plastic, most useless items can be sewed to feed for earthworms. The brick pieces are first put at the bottom of the container. A layer of loam soil is then spread over the brick pieces and topped with sand to make a bed. Some earthworm feed and basin is spread on this bed, and then some earthworms are released on it. The top of the container is then covered with a piece of sack. Some water has to be sprinkled on it daily. In 15 days, the earthworms will grow twofold. Vermicompost. This manure can be prepared either in an earthen pitcher or a cement tank of 2 meter length, 1 meter width, and 1 meter depth. The items needed for its production are some brick pieces, sand, sticky soil, earthworms, and earthworm feed. The first step is to prepare a bed at the bottom of the tank by evenly spreading the brick pieces and then covering it with a layer of sand. Some water is then sprinkled on the bed. It is now time to release the earthworms along with their feed on it. The pitcher or the tank has to be covered with sack and watered regularly. To protect the earthworms from ants, their main threats, a drain has to be constructed around the tank and filled with water. After 2 months, we can collect the vermicompost thus prepared, separate the earthworms from it using a sliver, and then use it in the agricultural fields. We need to remember that for the first month or so, the pit has to be watered on a daily basis. The use of cow dung water is even better for this purpose. Too much of water or sun rays can kill the earthworms, so the pit has to be well guarded against the sun and rain. The use of chemical fertilizers leads to the loss of soil fertility. The soil has become harder. I apply vermicompost in my land. Vermiwash. The preparation of vermiwash is not very different from that of vermicompost. A bed is prepared with a thick layer of brick pieces at the bottom of a pitcher. It is covered with a layer of sand and topped by a layer of earth. Some earthworms and earthworm feed is then spread on this bed, which is watered daily for the next 15 days. The water accumulated on the bed can now be collected and applied on plants to protect them from diseases, besides providing them plenty of hormones. Nadeb. A 10 feet long, 6 feet wide and 3 feet deep pit has to be constructed to prepare through this process. The bottom of the pit has to be filled up with things like stems, leaves, sticks and straw, and then a concoction of 4 kilograms of cow dung and 10 buckets of water has to be sprinkled on it. The pit has to be filled up layer by layer with soil. After 100 to 120 days, the manure thus prepared can be applied in the paddy fields. Pit compost. 10 feet long, 3 feet wide and 3 feet deep pit or tank has to be constructed and cow dung water is sprinkled at the bottom. Some stems and leaves, both raw and dry, are then dumped into the pit and a mixture of cow dung water and ash is sprinkled on it. The same process has to be followed layer after layer till the pit is fully covered. A stump is then fixed at the center of the pit before it is filled up with earth. After 45 days, the stump in the middle of the pit is shoved around a little and the warmth of the soil at the top is examined. If it is still warm, one has to wait for a few more days. If it feels cold, it means it is ready for use. Basket compost. Digging a pit between two plants and filling it with cow dung water and dry leaves and stems ensures plenty of nutrients for both the plants. The use of fecal matter of hen enhances the fertility of the soil. One can also dry, crush and then apply it in the field. Our forefathers used to apply silt in their field. This ensured the fertility of the soil years together. Cutting fresh leaves and stems into small pieces and applying it in the field not only increases the fertility of the soil but also protects the crops from pest attacks. Strip garden. A 3 feet wide, 9-inch deep pit of any length has to be dug in the soil. The soil extracted from digging the first 5 inches has to be kept on one side of the pit and the soil from the next 4 inches kept on the other side. Thereafter, cow dung water or pitcher manure has to be sprayed all around the pit. After dropping some fresh leaves and stems, some more cow dung water and some ash is sprayed on the bed. The process is repeated 3 times before the top is covered with the earth extracted during the digging of the pit. We have to remember that the soil that came out first must be used first while covering the pit. Spraying water on the pit and sowing seeds on it ensures that the plant have a healthy growth and are well protected from pests and diseases. Multi-cropping. Sowing of multiple crops in the field ensures that even if one crop is damaged, the farmer gets some returns from the other crops. Gold fertilizer toilet. A toilet with 2 safety tanks has to be constructed. After one tank is filled up, its mouth is covered and the mouth of the other is opened. Sowing of seeds around the tank leads to healthy growth of plants as they get plenty of nutrients.
After fertilizers, which provide enough nutrients for the plants, the most important task for the farmers is how to protect his crop from pest and disease attack. The so-called improved seeds are particularly susceptible to them, since they are not acclimatized with the climate of this country. To protect the crops from the pest, the farmer has to keep spending more and more on the pesticides. Most farmers in our country are illiterate and do not have adequate knowledge of the effects of the use of these pesticides. These remain blissfully unaware of the precautions that need to be taken while handling them, even though they are mentioned on the product.
The harmful effects of the pesticides poses serious danger for the stomach, liver and kidney. It can cause cancer in the lungs and lead to bronchitis, bronchopneumonia and bronchiectasis. It can also be a reason for nervous weakness known as Parkinsonism in medical parlance. If the pesticide gets to our head, it would result in loss and premature graying of hair. If it goes into the eyes will turn red, secrete water or catch conjunctivitis. If the pesticide goes into the ear, it may cause fungal infection and ear infection. If the skin comes into contact with it, it may develop wounds, scabies or even cancer. Even the unborn child is not spared by the effects of pesticides.
Let us now discuss how we can protect our crops from pests and diseases with just a little precaution and a very little effort.
Medicinal magic tonic. The requirements for making this biopesticide are some latex containing leaves, odor leaves and sour leaves, some turmeric powder, garlic, cow dung and cow urine. Let us chop the leaves into small pieces. The smaller, the better. Next, we put all the items collected into a pitcher and stir it well with cow dung and cow urine. After everything is mixed well, we have to put some crushed garlic into it and stir it again. Let us seal the pitcher mouth with a piece of polythene and keep it under shade for 15 days. When mixed with water and applied in the field, this green pesticide protects the crop from 50 different diseases. Instead of chemical fertilizers, we use biofertilizers. This will make the plants healthy and the crop bountiful. There will be no pest or disease attack either. Indigenous Gamaxin. The items required to make it are some tobacco leaves, kerosene, country lime, sulfur, chalk powder and some ash. The tobacco leaves have to be crushed and powdered first. Then some country lime, sulfur, kerosene, manure powder and ash have to be added to it and stirred well. After it is completely mixed, we can apply it in the fields to protect our crops from termites and ants. We will now prepare organic pesticides to protect our vegetable crops from leaf curd disease. The items needed for this are some sun-dried rice gruel, some turmeric powder, chili powder and water. A glass each of gruel and water has to be mixed with 5 spoonfuls each of turmeric powder and chili powder and stirred well. After it is fully mixed, it can be applied in the field before sunrise to protect the crop from leaf curd disease. This mixture can be used for 7 days. We can also chop eagle leaves, take out its juice, mix it with water and apply it in the paddy fields before sunrise to protect the crops from blast disease. Kunupa water. The intestine of fish and some molasses are the 2 major items necessary to make Kunupa water. The 2 are to be put in a pitcher and stirred well. The mouth of the pitcher is then sealed with a piece of polythene. In 10 days, the biopesticide is ready to be applied in the fields in the ratio of 5 mg of pesticide mixed in 25 liters of water. It protects the crop from a host of diseases. Raw garlic is crushed and mixed with kerosene and kept for 7 days in a sealed condition. After 7 days, the garlic pieces are separated from this solution and the rest is applied in the fields to protect the crops from necrosis disease. Epilachna disease. An equal amount of eagle and holy basil have to be crushed and then mixed with a liter of milk before being put in a pitcher. The mouth of the pitcher has to be sealed with a piece of cloth. After 12 hours, 50 milliliters of this solution mixed in 10 liters of water can be sprayed in the field shortly after sunrise or before sunset to protect it from the disease. 100 grams of tobacco leaves along with 100 grams of chili powder has to be boiled in an earthen pitcher. When the water is boiled properly, 2 liters more of water has to be added to it. The use of this solution in the field protects the brinjal crops from the fruit borer disease. Trap cropping. The planting of marigold and holy basil in the vegetable and fruit fields attracts the insects towards them and spares the main crop. Bird perching. Fixing some stumps in the field encourages birds to perch on it. Not only do they eat up various insects, but also defecate in the field, which increases the fertility of the soil. Biotrapping. Placing biotrapping instruments in the field attracts insects into them and traps them inside. The process does away with the need for pesticides for these insects. Magic lamp. We can also prepare a light trap and place a pitcher containing some molasses or kerosene water. Insects are drawn to it either due to the light or the smell of the molasses water and get trapped inside.
High yield varieties of seeds require huge amount of water. That is why the government had to implement a series of irrigation projects. This led to the destruction of vast stretches of forests and large-scale displacement. The farmer needed high-quality water pumps. Such was the irrigation that some lands had more water than needed, while others went completely dry. Waterlogging for long periods increased the saline content in water and spelled disaster for the soil.
Nearly 4 million hectares of upland has either been salinized or waterlogged this way. In other words, that much of land is no more cultivable.
Too many civilizations have perished because of profusion of water. The best way to increase production is to use less water and increase the moisture retention capacity of the soil instead.
Mulching. Covering the soil at the base of the plant with straw, hay, leaves, stems and brick pieces is called mulching. It prevents sun rays from falling directly on the soil and thus protects it from hardening. It also enhances the water retention capacity of the soil. The topsoil does not get washed away easily. After decomposition, the covering mingles with the soil and strengthens it. Besides, it also does not allow the growth of wild grass. When a circular pit is dug at some distance from the plant, filled with cow dung water, fresh and dry leaves and stems, and then covered with soil, it is called inside mulching. When the mix is left open, it is called outside mulching. Organic farming requires less water on the one hand and increases the water retention capacity of the soil on the other. That is why excess water has to be regularly drained out. There is no water in the field at all. Do you think the crop will survive? Yes, it will. Since chemical fertilizers have not been used, it would not hot up easily. The healthy leaves will ensure a good crop. Planting of small plants at the base of large trees leads to an increase in the yield. Pitcher garden. A pitcher is perforated at 2 to 4 places and then buried in the ground. Plants are sown around the pitcher and the pitcher regularly filled with water. The water seeps through these perforations and goes into the plants. If the number of plants is large, we can use a long pipe, so-called pitcher irrigation, to irrigate them.
A major requirement in the use of high-yield seeds is the use of improved agriculture implements. But tilling the soil with the tractors or power tillers kills the earthworms and the other helpful microorganisms which play an important role in increasing soil fertility.
The use of tractors hardens the soil. More instruments are needed to make it soft again. By deep ploughing, the bacteria on top of the soil go inside and those deep in the soil come to the surface. The bacteria on the top, which need plenty of air, die once they go inside. The aerobic bacteria, which can make do with very little oxygen, too die once they come up. The net result is a drastic reduction in the number of beneficial bacteria in the soil. These microorganisms are the real strength of the soil.
But use of the indigenous plough poses no such danger. The use of cow dung provides the much needed feed for the earthworms and other friendly organisms, thus helping in the proliferation of increase of soil fertility. Several organizations are now playing a pioneering role in persuading farmers to achieve modern agriculture and popularizing our indigenous system of agriculture.
The efforts of the people are limited. Till the government encourages it, it can never become a revolution or benefit all. Organic farming must receive the topmost priority in the agriculture policy that the government is formulating. Sustained efforts are needed to convince the people to shun chemical agriculture and benefit from organic farming.
A series of books, periodicals, and posters are now being published and meetings held to generate awareness on the issue. The net result of these efforts has been new awakening among the people.
What have you tied here? 1 kilogram each of neem leaves, agar leaves, and custard apple leaves. Why? To protect the crop from diseases. How will it protect the crop against disease? The aroma of these leaves will spread over the entire land and protect the crop. Instead of chemical fertilizers, we use pitcher manure, leaves and stems collected from the forest, and cow dung in our field. We observe that use of iron tiller killed the earthworm in the field. We did not get a good crop. We find the wooden plough much better. I plant tomato in 60 decimals of land. I used to get tomato worth no more than rupees 7,000 to 8,000 earlier. But after resorting to organic farming, the same land now fetches me an income of not less than rupees 16,000.
Many farmers have now realized the benefits of organic farming. They have come to know that it will help to produce safe, poison-free food. The environment will come alive once again. Diseases will become the thing of the past. This awakening among the farmers is a ray of hope for the future generations.
आशा भाई भौणी जीवा विषमुक्ति का आमे करिबा